So go, and don't come back without a warrant. Out, Nazi, out, out. You understand? Nazis are not welcome here. Out. And don't come back without a warrant. Do not come back without a warrant. You understand that? You're not welcome here. Nazis are not welcome here. Gestapo is not welcome here.
Well, Pastor Artur Pawlowski, thank you so much for coming on Cancel This.
Well, thank you for having me.
So your story is really incredible. It's sort of gone viral all over the internet. I wanted to take a step back and really create a timeline of what's going on. A lot of people listening may know that Alberta and the rest of Canada is going through a number of lockdown measures related to COVID. You're in Alberta, you're in Calgary. I was wondering if you could walk me through the day prior to you filming the video. What was going on? What was the reasoning for coming? I was just wondering if you could lay out a timeline.
Yeah, everything started 13 months ago, just like in your country, all over the world, because of the COVID hysteria. 30 months ago, I was doing what I have been doing for the past 20 years, feeding the homeless people on the streets of Calgary. And then suddenly police officers showed up, 12 in number, and they announced that feeding the poor is punishable right now by law, and I am not allowed to feed the poor. And I disagreed, so I got $1,200 ticket. I was the first clergyman in Canada to get the COVID ticket. I call them the COVID tickets. And I was threatened. My parishioner was pushed physically by the police. The story was a national story, and they bashed me everywhere. The police officers, the police chief did press release, and we got this guy, he's a lawbreaker, he dared to be on the streets feeding the people, and I was threatened with $1 million fine. And from that moment, I started to have officers and bylaw and health inspectors from time to time coming and giving me tickets. I got 28 COVID tickets so far, just the pure intimidation and harassment. So this is going on for over a year. When the government of Canada announced that they're canceling Christmas, I asked the Canadian churches to come together and let's have the biggest Christmas celebration in the country. I had Christmas carolers. We were feeding the homeless people, hundreds of them, and we had over 100 police officers, 52 police cars at our Christmas festival. So this has been going for a long time. And then from time to time, because I pastor two churches, one is feeding the homeless on the streets of Calgary 4 times a week, and another one is in the building where I teach. So if you're interested in my sermons or preaching on the streets, Artur Pawlowski, ArturPawlowski TV, and you will be able to see thousands. I uploaded thousands of videos of us preaching, feeding the poor, and also teaching. Another website for YouTube is Street Church Calgary, and you can visit us www.streetchurch.ca. So if you're interested to see what we do and how it was done, there's a lots of videos of interactions with authorities as well. And then one time they decided to show up at our church's parking lot and block the parking lot, preventing our parishioners from coming. A pure intimidation tactics, just like I grew up under communist dictatorship behind the Iron Curtain, and that's what the Soviets were doing. Exactly the same thing, except now we are a step down. They're not murdering us, they're not torturing us yet, but the intimidation tactics are identical. Do what we say. We are in this together, but they are vacationing, traveling, doing whatever they want. And we are in this together, but they are giving themselves a raise. And we are starving, our businesses are shut down. You know, the same hypocrisy, the same lie. And it took me almost an hour to kick them out from the parking lot, but they left and they got back again and again. But this was the first time that they ever entered the sanctuary, the, safe haven, if you will, the church. And we were already preparing, singing, and the people were praying. And then suddenly I turn and I look left, and that's where they were. They no warrant, no appointment, nothing. Just walked in, barged like into the restaurant, and demanding something. But as you know, I didn't give them any opportunity to tell me, all those rhetorics that I've heard it so many times. I didn't want to listen to them. It's like demons invading our church. And the only thing that was coming to my mind was get out, just get out from this place and never come back unless you have a warrant. This was during our holiest holiday, which is a Passover, Easter weekend, and they just barged in and did what they did. So I chased them away. That's what a pastor, a shepherd does, chases wolves away.
Yeah. Well, I mean, millions of people have seen this video now. It's all over the place, all over the world. It's interesting to hear you talk about the fact that this isn't new. You said you've gotten 28 tickets over the past year. So it's almost like maybe they recognized you a little bit. You're familiar to them and they're familiar to you. But you're suggesting that this is the first time that they've ever been so flagrant to enter the church itself rather than the parking lot or when you're feeding the homeless.
And
What
I've told
has
them,
happened? Yeah.
I've told
Sorry,
them
go ahead.
many times. I've told them many times they're not allowed to enter the church building. They're not allowed to intimidate our elderly, our children, women in a church settings, and they didn't care. Another interesting part of that story is that they came to enforce a bylaw ticket or bylaw law about the masks, right? And they wanted to make sure that I'm wearing a mask while I am conducting my service. But that's a fine punishable by $100. It's an infraction. It's a bylaw. What they did, they broke two criminal codes. They broke two criminal laws, which is 5 years jail time for what they did. If I wanted to press charges against them, I can press charges and they will be facing 5 years minimum sentence. So this is what we're seeing all over. They are pushing some kind of restrictions on us, and not laws, some kind of made up restrictions, unconstitutional, let me add. And at the same time, they're breaking every other law on the planet. I mean, it's insane.
Well, you mentioned the Constitution. Certainly in Canada, there have been a lot of constitutional challenges based on what's going on, and there's different organizations like the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms that's there in Alberta. Are you now in a position where, I mean, let's move past the video. The video happens, the event occurs, they leave. The Calgary police release a statement about it. I'm sure you've seen it. And they do suggest that they were enforcing a bylaw because it was a gathering of people and it was unhealthy or whatever their language is. Where do you go from here? Do you want to push some kind of legal challenge? Where's your mindset for the future?
Well, I was contacted by a lawyer, and that was the same question. What do you want me to do? And I would say, hold your horses. I want to see how they're going to react during the next service. If I see any officer, any health department, any bylaws at our church service or outside, intimidating our parishioners, I'll press charges against all of them. I'll hire the best lawyer I can, and I'm going to crowdfund and go after those villains, because I think it's about time to send a very heavy message to those villains that we will not crawl down. We're not going to bow down and just die. We're going to stand up and fight. And I think, surprisingly to me, I think that's the message that people are taking from this little video. Get out, stand up for yourself, be brave, be courageous. And if you are, they will leave, because we are in the right, they are in the wrong.
Well, and it does make you wonder, in the video you are sort of like yelling at some of these police officers. You wonder how many of those police officers are potentially Christian themselves, how many of those police officers want to be enforcing these rules but are subject to a system that they can't disagree with. I think that's what stood out to a lot of people, is the fact that they left. There's other videos in England, for example, in the middle of a service, the police came in and said, you all have to leave, and everybody left quietly. So you're sort of the the antithesis to that, where you are saying, no, this is private property, you're not allowed to do this, get out. And I think, to that point, I wanted to get a little bit more into your background. So I know you're Polish, and what I've found is that the Polish people are so strong in their faith, and they're so strong in their belief. Something that stood out in the video that many people have pointed out is that not only do you call them Nazis, but you call them communists. And this is something that I've noticed about Polish people, where you understand that Nazism and communism are both horrible. They're both bad. They're both two sides of, the same coin.
The level of evil that those people subjected other people to, it's unbelievable. Every year I go to Auschwitz-Birkenau just to remind myself about atrocities that a man is capable of if you don't put a check into the government and their overreach to that's exactly what we're seeing right now. And so I grew up in the stories hearing about Nazism and Adolf Hitler and what his party did. And we have to remember that everything Adolf Hitler did was legal, according to him. It was the law. You were supposed to follow the law.
If you like that video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to the Post Millennial. For daily news and content, please go to thepostmillennial.com and consider becoming a member. For $5 a month, you can get rid of all the advertisements on the site. If you like what I'm wearing on my head, you can go to shop.postmillennial.com, where we have beanies, mugs, and t-shirts. Please consider supporting the Post Millennial however you can. It's massively appreciated. Thank you.